Hello guys, welcome to the channel once more. Today we're looking at this my 2014 Honda Accord hybrid. If you have a Honda Accord, I am pretty sure you can recognize most of the components underneath the hood. Centerpiece, center stage, you have the Honda Accord Earth Dreams engine. It's the newer engine that Honda developed for its Honda and I believe Honda Accord, Honda Insight, and I don't know if the Honda Civic in some version uses the same engine, but it's supposed to be a very efficient engine, very reliable, and it just seems to go forever. Currently, I have about 196,000 miles on the original spark plugs. All the maintenance I've done is simply change the engine oil, always use synthetic, and then also change the transmission fluid. Tires, of course, I am still on my original brakes. This vehicle has 4 disc brakes all around, and I am still using my original disc brakes. One thing to note though, at 196,000 miles, I don't have it on this video, but when you touch the disc brakes, you can actually feel grooves in there. So at some point, even though the brake zone squeal is not one, I think I should just change and put in brand new discs and also change the brake pads. On your right, the silver looking thing on your screen, that's the inverter. It takes the power from the engine, converts it to the kind of power that the battery in the back needs, and it also draws power from the back, the battery pack, the high voltage battery pack as needed. Bottom of your screen on the right, you can see the battery. It's a very small 12-volt battery, and that battery doesn't actually start the vehicle. All what it does is it turns on the computer systems, and it's the computers that tell the high voltage battery to turn the engine over, and that's how the vehicle actually starts. So we're gonna feed the machine. I usually start with something more aggressive, either the tire wall wash or engine wash, but be very careful when you use those options. You never want them to stay on your car paint for anything more than a minute. So I just use that to cut through the grime, the dust, the grease from the road, and bird poop, stuff like that, before I do a second round. So initially we'll just try to get everything softened up. Mind you, this was really cold on this day. Before you do this, of course, you make sure that your oil dipstick is inserted fully. That's the one main place where you can have ingress of water. The big advantage, as you can see with the hybrid, is that it doesn't have an alternator, it doesn't have a power steering, it doesn't have belts and all that associated equipment. The power steering on this vehicle is electronic. For the alternator, of course, everything is inbuilt. The hybrid system just charges the battery in the back, and it also keeps the 12-volt battery up front charged, so you don't really need an alternator in this vehicle, and there is none. And I just do a quick pass. This is mostly to soften up everything and just to attest to the build quality of this vehicle at 196,000 miles, driving in this in very harsh weather, because we get very cold weather, very hot weather. I still haven't seen a single piece of rust on this car. That is simply amazing. So whatever kind of alloy Honda is using, these cars will be around for a very, very long time. So we continue. Like I said, this is a hybrid vehicle. If you have a normally aspirated vehicle, please do be careful because you will have an alternator. You might have a power steering pump and other paraphernalia that's hanging in the engine bay that may not take kindly when you bring water to them. While doing this, I should also say that I try to keep the engine running. That way, in case water contaminates any of the spark plugs, then it gets dry. That cable I'm showing there, it's for firefighters in case of a crash. When they come to a hybrid vehicle, they have some kind of indication that shows them what cable to cut to disable the battery pack in the back. That I believe is the ground cable coming from the negative terminal, and that goes to the body of the car. Once you cut it, then you break that circuit, and the battery pack in the back is gonna go disconnect itself. All the relays will shut down, and the battery pack won't be energized anymore, and you can safely extract people from the vehicle. Like I said, the battery pack that's in the trunk, it's a high voltage battery. For these vehicles, usually they run about 250 to about 450 volts, depending on what vehicle you have. If it's a Toyota Prius or a Honda Accord hybrid or a Honda Insight first or second generation, or there's just a slew of hybrids out there. A Hyundai Sonata, they all use different voltages. But for the Toyota Prius, for example, when you disable the battery pack in the back, it splits the voltage. So instead of being hit by 450 volts, you might end up with about 225 or something in that range, which is less lethal. So as you saw, I was cycling through the various settings on the wash. I usually start with something pretty aggressive because I don't want to scrub the car. So I start with something aggressive, and that cuts through the grime, the dust, the bird poop, and everything. You can see there what the engine looks like. I keep it running so everything evaporates. And very important, when you are finished, make sure you rinse the vehicle very well and the engine. Otherwise, that soapy material is gonna seep through, surfaces and whatever, and cause you havoc. So when you're done with that, then the last layer I apply usually is I turn on the wax setting. And what that does is it coats the engine and the body of the car in this very thin and fine layer of wax. And I just want to draw your attention to throughout this process, I didn't use any scrubbing. I didn't have to go in my engine bay and go to the nooks and crannies. Just do this once every year, once every 6 months, depending on the weather in your area. And there you can see the final results. I think it looks pretty amazing. When you take it to have your oil changed, it's a pleasure. The mechanic is more than happy to jump into your engine bay. When it looks so clean, it shows a lot of pride of ownership, and it doesn't take much. Again, remember, if your vehicle has an alternator, use a plastic bag or something to cover the alternator. This car has treated me good. I've had almost 200,000 miles. I'm just about 3,000 plus miles shy of 200,000 miles on this vehicle. Never once has it left me on the side of the road. Never once have I seen the check engine light. I am still on the original spark plugs. And all in all, I think this is a very, very good vehicle. Highly recommended. I don't know about the second generation of the Honda Accord Hybrid, but from what I have seen so far, it seems to have very similar performance. Main difference being that the roof line is a bit lower. That's a tiny 12-volt battery that starts the computers, the inverter, and then the engine. In this day and age, if you have to buy a brand new vehicle, I would highly, highly recommend a hybrid. These vehicles are simply amazing. Thanks for watching the video. See you guys on the next one.